I am not a bartender, nor do I have any bartending experience. I'm just a guy who found his passion in lockdown. I like a good drink with some history and some flavor. My name is Jonah, and I am the one who drinks. Today we're going to be making a whiskey sour, perhaps the most accessible cocktail there is. If you were on the fence about getting into cocktail making, this is the perfect jumping off point. Mainly because the ingredients are simple and it builds in flexibility, so you can really build it the way you like it. I personally use a rye over a bourbon. I think the spices sort of bring out the citric flavors of the lemon a little bit better, but to each their own. First, we're going to talk a little history. The first written instance of a whiskey sour was all the way back in 1862 with Jerry Thomas's Bartender's Guide, How to Mix Drinks. Now keep in mind, when choosing the spirit for your whiskey sour, it really comes down to what you prefer. If you like a spicier finish, a little bit more of an aggressive flavor, you're going to want to go with a rye, something like the Sagamore here or the Rittenhouse. However, if you're more of a bourbon person, expect a little bit more of a mellow flavor, a little bit more caramel. It really comes down to personal preference. Now, as you can see, I have a pretty good variation of bourbon and ryes sitting back here. I personally will be going with the rye, like I mentioned. And even though Rittenhouse is perhaps the most popular approach currently to making a nice whiskey sour, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with the Sagamore. I'm somebody who prefers to drink locally. I'm on the East Coast, and Sagamore's distilleries are right up the road from me. So we're going to be going with that today. On top of that, we're going to need a little bit of simple syrup. I make my own, very easy to make. This is a semi-rich syrup, so it's 1.5 parts sugar to 1 part water. It's going to last about 2 months. Additionally, we're going to need some lemons. Fresh lemon juice is always the way to go when making a cocktail. You would be shocked at the difference fresh versus store-bought makes. Lastly, we're going to need an egg. We're going to be sifting out an egg white to get a nice creamy foam top. Now some of you may say, but Jonah, doesn't an egg white make it a Boston sour? And to those people I say, what are you, a cop? A cop? Are you a cop? Sorry, a little bit of departed humor. Now, one note about the egg white that we're going to be putting in. For those of you who are vegan or just generally prefer to avoid eggs, a decent replacement is aquafaba. Now, what that is if you've ever had chickpeas, it's the juice that chickpeas sit in. 3/4 of an ounce, shaken just the same way we're going to shake this egg, will give you that same foam that sits on top. It won't have quite the same flavor profile, but you'll get a very similar texture. So today I'm going to be using a good old-fashioned Boston shaker. I have no problems with a cobbler shaker. In fact, as you can see, I have one. I just prefer having that natural feel. It just feels better in your hands, and it, in my opinion, feels like it gets a little bit better of a shake. But there really is almost no difference between the two. In that shaker, we're going to put the rye first. We're going to do 1.5 ounces of that. After that, we're going to go ahead and add 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup. Now, a lot of people will talk about how they prefer their drinks sweeter or they prefer their drinks less sweet. And that's sort of what I was talking about when it comes to the flexibility of the drink, right? Some places, in fact, I think the most famous recipe will call for 1 ounce of lemon juice and just 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. I do like my drinks a little sweeter, so I split the difference. I'm going to go 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, and then once I juice this lemon, I'm going to go 3/4 of an ounce of lemon. Now what we're going to do is going to go ahead and crack our egg white into the drink. Start with this. And just do a nice back and forth, making sure to avoid any yolk going into your drink. But the egg white really, it adds just a whole nother level of texture and mouthfeel, I know, cheesy, to the drink that really elevates it to the next level. So once all those ingredients are in the shaker, what we're going to do is what's called a dry shake. Now, the reason we do a dry shake is because you need to do an aggressive shake to make sure that the egg white in the drink can expand and become that foam that I was talking about. If you shake it with ice in it, not only are you adding a little bit of resistance so that foam doesn't get to build the way that you want it to, but also you're shaking the drink this entire time. So when you're adding ice and shaking that much, you end up watering the drink a little too far down, so you don't get to get the full experience. You want to make sure that it's sealed, because the air is going to expand in the egg white. Very easy for the seal to get a little bit lapsed if you don't really push it in there, because that expansion is basically trying to force the two parts of this apart. You're going to want to shake for about 20 seconds. Oh yeah, that's a nice good foam. Through the magic of editing, we went ahead and we filled our other half of our tin with ice. So now we can do what's a wet shake. This is basically, now that the foam has been created, we're just going to make sure that we sort of flash freeze, in a sense, the drink. So it'll be nice and cold. We get a little bit of water added to really bring out the flavors, but not so much that we drown it. And this needs to only be done for 10 to 15 seconds. The ice makes sure that this forms a nice strong seal. I do a practice shake just to make sure that it's locked in, and then we shake it up. So now we're going to take an old-fashioned glass, and we're going to go ahead and strain right through with a hawthorn. Now, some people like to double strain their sours. I personally don't, because I find that the finer strain tends to mess with the egg white foam, which we worked so hard for. So you're just going to pour. And as that settles, you'll see there's that nice, light, fluffy foam sitting on top. But now, we add the secret ingredient. What really separates a decent whiskey sour from a great whiskey sour. Bitters. These are just run-of-the-mill Angostura bitters. I keep them in a dropper bottle because it lets you add a little bit more fun to your drink. So all you're going to do, take a couple of drops, place them right on top. Boom. 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 From there, it's as simple as finding a stir that you like. I have these fun little cocktail picks, and I just like to drag them around. Beautiful. In a perfect world, it would look something like this. And you know what? Sometimes it's not a perfect world. And that's okay. As long as it's delicious, that's the most important part of any cocktail. Visuals are just an added bonus. And there you have it. A nice whiskey sour. You get the whole gambit through a whiskey sour. Because you get to start, again, we went with the rye, so we got that spice. And that obviously is the forward flavor. You get vanilla, you get a little bit of cinnamon. You really get just a nice wide variety. Sagamore really does cover their spices well in their rye. Followed up, the combat between the sugar that we added, and the sour that we added, that sweet and sour fighting back and forth, it really adds a lot of delicacy. It lightens up the drink so well. That's why you shake a whiskey sour, is because the lemon juice, by shaking it and then by straining it, you're sort of taking out the punch of the citrus. You're getting that sour, but it's not as acidic. So what we're doing is we're now adding that into this creamy foam that we added on top. And we get these tiny little hints of flavor from the bitters we combined. And now it's the symphony. It's a symphony of all these ingredients that have come together to make what is honestly just one of the best drinks out there. Again, if you're trying to get into cocktails, master the whiskey sour. Besides maybe an old fashioned and a couple of other recipes that, spoilers, we'll be going into later, this is one of the most important drinks any cocktail maker should have pretty much nailed down. Well, that was the whiskey sour. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. If you want to see more, please don't be afraid to like, subscribe, comment. I plan to go through a lot of classic drinks, but beyond that, there's a whole world of cocktails out there that I'm really excited to introduce you guys to. So, until next time, my name is Jonah, and I am the one who drinks.